Not many people have a true essence of what meditation is about. But there is no way of spiritual growing without meditating, without listening to yourself. And it is much easier and much simpler than you think. And it took me a long time to figure it out as well, not even pretending that I have fully figured it out, because every time I meditate, it still every time can go deeper and deeper and deeper, because it has to do with your level of awareness and consciousness, which is always expanding. But a lot of people are so stuck in the initial phases. They're like, how can I just sit down calmly? I can't shut off my mind. It doesn't work for me, right? I have a too busy life, too busy mind, and this meditation thing is just not working for me. But it's the same as if you're just trying a new sport for the first time and you're like, yeah, I suck at this sport. I can't do it. It takes a little bit of time before you understand. But it's much easier than you think. At the same time, when you just start meditating, your mind is kind of like a garbage disposal that has never really been emptied, has it? It never has been really listened to. And the benefits are indescribable, because meditation is about entering a bliss state. This state where you can fully let go of everything and nothing matters. And believe me, once you've tasted 1 second of this bliss state, it will become addictive. It is the state you want to be in. And it impacts everything. It's not just the meditation itself. A meditated mind is a much calmer mind, and you bring that with you afterwards as well with everything that you do. So it can literally change your life. First thing to understand about meditation is that it takes time and dedication, just like any practice, anything that you start off at. The more you do it, the better you'll become at it. It took me many hours of meditating, where recently it just has been clicking for me, and I've been realizing how much I was overcomplicating it before. And I started off with guided meditation, and this can be a really good tool to start off at. I've recorded a very good guided meditation recently as well, really for third eye activation and just quieting the mind, dropping into presence. Check it out. But it takes diligent practice every day. Everyone should be meditating every day for at least 10 minutes, preferably 20, and then gradually build it up to more as it becomes easier and easier and easier for you to do that amount of time. Now, secondly, let me explain the true essence of meditation. Meditation is a letting go process. In the most simple form, it is you just sitting down and shutting off all your senses for a given time. Right? You don't see anything, you don't hear anything, you don't move, you don't feel anything, you don't smell anything. You just completely shut yourself off from the world, and you don't take any action. You don't move. It's literally as simple as just sitting still, let's say for 20 minutes, sitting still. Now, what's gonna happen when you sit still? This mind of yours is going to become very loud. Now, there are many tools and practices and techniques to reoccupy the mind, such as tuning into the breath, focusing on the breath instead. But this is just a method to come back to the present moment, to get out of the mind. It is just to anchor your presence back into something that is neutral to you. Because we can't really have any opinion about the breath. We usually don't really think much of it. And that's the only reason the breath is used as an anchor point. Plus, it's always there, and thus it is a direct link to the present moment. It is thus a method, focusing on the breath, to come back into the present moment and to not feel any judgment towards this present moment, because the breath is so neutral. At the same time, usually when we start focusing on the breath, it will become deeper and slower without us doing much. This will just happen by itself, and this causes us to relax. This causes our nervous system to relax. But I want you to understand that when you sit down and you have a very overactive mind, the worst thing to do is to start fighting this mind, right? To try to actively not think, because it usually just doesn't really work and it leads to a lot of frustration. And again, going back to what I said in the beginning, your mind is like a garbage disposal. All these thoughts are the garbage. If it has never been emptied, thus you just started off with meditation, a lot of garbage is going to be disposed. What the aim is, or the practice that you try to do during meditation, is, can you let go of this thought? Can you just let it go for a second? Because there's nothing you can do now anyway. You're not going to take any action. You're not going to get up and send that text that you've been thinking about. You're not going to do that thing. You're not going to make that meal that you fantasize about. You're not going to take any action, right? Because you've promised yourself now to sit down for 20 minutes and meditate. Thus, can I just let it go for now and come back to the present moment? And with some thoughts, it just simply doesn't work. We keep looping, we keep going back to it. It keeps eating at us, right? Now, this is not necessarily wrong, because you know what you're practicing now? You're practicing listening to your mind. You're practicing, in a way, growing your awareness, because normally when your mind gets overactive, you would rather distract yourself and do something else, go on your phone. This is the first thing we do when we have an overactive mind, scroll on our phone. But now, because we're meditating, we actually listen. And that's sometimes a little bit of a painful process. Again, it's like a garbage disposal. Disposing the garbage, listening to all the thoughts, is not always fun. It can be very intense, but it's not something that we're trying to resist in meditation. We're rather listening, allowing it to just play off whatever it wants to play off. But the trick lies here, and this is where my third point comes. The trick lies here is that we listen to our thoughts from a place of awareness, from observing, from listening. So we're no longer the speaker of the thoughts, we're no longer the thinker, we are the listener to the thoughts. It's kind of like if you can imagine all your thoughts being cars on a highway. Instead of being in a car, you are on the side of the highway watching all the cars go by. And why this is such a beautiful analogy as well is that when you watch a car go by, you don't really entertain one car for too long at the time. So you don't really try to engage much with thoughts. Thoughts can occur, but as they occur, you try to sort of tell yourself that it's not so important right now, and that you can let it go, and that you can come back to the breath, come back to the present moment, and just let it go by, like a cloud floating off, like a car going by. Let it go, right? That's why I say the essence of meditation is a process of letting go. Now, with our worries, this is very difficult, right? With some thoughts from the past, this might be very difficult to let go of when you sit down. Now, don't try to fight it. This thought of the past, this garbage that is coming up, might be still coming up because you've never fully processed the emotion behind it. This is my fourth point. There is a purpose for thoughts repetitively coming up in your brain. It's not to annoy you, it's to make you feel. It's to make you aware, it's to make you acknowledge. It is basically an invite to do a psychoanalysis on yourself, to listen to that thought with awareness and see what this thought is trying to tell you, what this thought is trying to make you feel. Maybe during one of your meditations, you'll have a big purge. You're crying because this thing that from the past comes out. And this doesn't mean your meditation failed at all. So this we allow. We don't resist it. You use the breath. Sometimes you focus back on the breath to come back to presence, especially when thoughts get too consuming or intense. But at the same time, we don't resist some thoughts of the past that are trying to make us feel something. We rather observe and hear them out and see if we can then let it go. And if not, then that thought is still trying to make you feel something. It is still trying to tell you something. You're still processing. Meditation is just processing. It is just listening, processing, letting go. Listening, processing, letting go. But where you are in these three things, I can't predict for you. Sometimes you're listening, sometimes you're processing, feeling, and sometimes you're in a state of just letting everything go. The thought pops up, what will I eat after? Not so important right now. Let it go, right? A thought pops up from a past breakup and you feel this emotion come up. Well, maybe you then need to entertain that thought for a little bit and cry and then let it go. Coming to my fifth point, there is not much doing in meditation. We're not trying to actively do things. We're doing the opposite. We practice how we can stop doing so much. Most of us live a very busy life. That's why we have a very active mind. It's just a product of that because we never refrain from action or distraction. But what we do in meditation is we sit down and we do refrain from any action or distraction. We can't really move. We don't move at all. We don't even itch, right? Try to really stay as still as possible in meditation. And we also don't try to resist thoughts or try to steer the mind. We rather let it go. Let it roll, let it be. It's a very passive energy. It's a very conscious energy because it is the place of awareness. You become the observer of the mind. You become the observer of your reality. You step back into your true self. And this true self is not doing. This true self is leaning back and observing. It's kind of like you're starting to watch your life and yourself and everything around you from a third person perspective. And even in outside of meditation, you can do that. I can now go and watch myself, above myself, do this thing, hear myself speak as if I am not the speaker. That is awareness. That is the true self. That is the observer of this reality. And that is what we're practicing in meditation. Again, check out my guided meditation if you really need a little bit of guidance to get into a proper meditative state. I will talk more about Kundalini energy that might activate during meditation, but this is quite advanced, so I'll make another video about that in the future. Also, I've crafted a very comprehensive 5-week identity shifting course for people that are ready to step into their highest timeline. I help you day by day in a period of 5 weeks with daily practices, daily journaling, videos that really are a very comprehensive self-concept program to get from your current self to a higher future version of yourself, with all of these manifestation practices, guided meditations, etc. and my personal guidance through chat. Check the link in the description if you want to find out more about that. Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate you. Leave in the comments your meditation experiences, and thank you so much for watching. Sending you much, much love.